the Comix Asylum podcast, where we explore the world of comic books, movies, television, and pop culture. My name is Steve Bino, and this week Marco Rudy talks about his new creator-owned graphic novel, RDW. All right, so welcome to the Asylum. We have superstar artist, illustrator extraordinaire, Marco Rudy. Welcome.
Thanks for having me. Not that big of a superstar. I'm just a guy.
You're being a bit too modest. You've done a lot of work for DC, Marvel,
Yeah.
Boom. So,
Mhm.
you're out there. You're out there.
A little bit, yes.
So, how has 2020 been treating you?
Um, it's been a bit of a roller coaster because actually I had a gig that was going to last throughout the year, and initially when I was offered the gig, I was a bit dubious because mostly because I was already focusing on getting RDW going. But the thing is, at the end of the day, it didn't work out the way it was planned. It was a very, very well paying gig, but I'll say that I was not invested. I was there because I wanted to get paid. So due to the COVID situation, the book got canned. I'm like, all right, good. I have now time to fully dedicate myself to this thing. And it's funny that I did shop around, not too much. I shopped this book, RDW. I shopped it around initially when it was just a concept, so 2016, 2017, and it got some attention, but nobody took a bite. And I did it one last time just before I tried to go for a Kickstarter early in the year. And still, again, it was kind of lots of maybes. And I had a friend that works with Kickstarter, so I was gonna go through his company, and they needed. Basically, this thing has been cooking up for a while. So eventually, I got encouraged to just push it through myself. So that part of it has been a relative amount. With the campaign successful, has been a relative success. But the year itself, with everything that has been happening, as I said, it's been a bit of a roller coaster. But gladly, at least, like even yesterday, I was just thinking about that the campaign is paid for. What essentially I have to do is work within my schedule, which is happening. So that train is on the rails, and it would take it would take something spectacular to derail it. So as it is, pretty good.
Well, that's great to hear.
Yeah,
2020 has been a
yeah,
dumpster fire.
yeah. I mean, outside of very minor achievements for me at least, outside of very minor achievements. Well, the book is not a minor achievement, but it is the achievement. And one or two things where I moved away from the big city to the middle of the woods. Outside of that, dumpster fire is it's kind of there.
For sure. And we'll get back to RDW for a second, but you said you
Yeah,
moved from the city to the woods.
yeah,
I know that you were in Montreal.
yes.
Have you now moved out of the city, or?
Yes, I moved away from the city, a couple of hours away from Montreal.
Okay.
I'm in in the province still, just away from the big city. I'm in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, Montreal is one of my it's like my second home. I love it quite a
It's a
bit.
beautiful
So
city.
yeah. So RDW,
Hmm.
it's about coping, it's about addiction. There's like a laundry list of
Yeah,
really heavy kind of themes that you've got going on in it. Can you give us an idea of what it's all about?
yeah. I would say the elevator pitch is for everybody that is familiar with the stories of Asterix and Obelix. It is essentially taking that formula and bringing it to the real world, as in a group of warriors or a group or a village or whatever, that has a one-up on their opposition, which is this potion. Um, but what I did was I tried to bring that to the real world. What would be the equivalent, or something that would, the element that would have the equivalent results on people nowadays? And I found out it would be methamphetamine. And rather than telling just that story, my idea was, let's remove the super strength, super everything, punching people off buildings and whatnot, and bring to the human side of it, which is, yeah, it's math. It screws you up. So let's tell a story of people that are dealing with the effects of that. And like I haven't mentioned this, but I also take a little bit of inspiration from First Blood, which is uh, the gist of First Blood is I have not read the book. I just saw the movie one too many times, but the gist is just how expendable the how do you say this, the weaponry machine makes humans, just how expendable the humans are in the war machine. So in this particular case, it's these people that have been experimenting with this drug, and the effects of that on the people, just all of that colored in a fantastical setting. So I will be addressing other themes as the story goes. Uh, uh, still focusing on that specific point of the expendability of what the war machine does to people, and the results of that, the 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 emergence of refugees, um, people trying to get back to I'm going on 25 different tangents here. It seems like the book has no focus. It's just this specific book is just the introduction to the story, where this character is dealing with the immediate after effects of stopping to consume this drug. So throughout the story, which the plan is the way I divided the story is, if it's not successful enough, it's only 5 books, but if it's successful enough, it's 10. Throughout the story, we'd be dealing with a specific potential loss that this character has, and this is not a spoiler. It's just the her reason for being where she is because she perceives that she lost something through their responsibility. And in that journey, this character is experimenting different effects of withdrawal. So it's combining this potential quote unquote 5 stages of grief with this exploration of addiction withdrawal in the army, with peppering here and there social commentary, more and more and more as the books come about. Of course, all of that in a situation where, yes, we see elves, we see dwarves, and we see actually equivalents of dwarves, orcs, and whatnot from Namibian culture, from Brazilian culture, elements that are not your usual folk stories that you normally see in traditional fantasy, what we can normally consume in fantasy stories.
So it's almost like the ingredients of RDW are quite diverse,
And that's the intention, yes.
Yeah, and you're able to draw on a lot of the rich stories and folklore that exists out there. We tend to only kind of see things through European kind of lens when it comes to folklore, whether it's Norse mythology, Greeks.
Yeah.
So that would be a very interesting way to see how you're going to weave that into the narrative.
Like, I do take quite a bit of inspiration from, like, I mean, there's proven books and proven creators that have done this way better than how I think to do. My first idea was to do was what Andrzej Sapkowski does in his books from The Witcher, which he drinks from essentially Polish folklore and peppers in that kind of culture into the story that he is trying to tell. And at the same time, on a different scale, Gaiman does that with, I mean, insert book here, but Sand he peppers in different types of cultures in pop culture into Sandman, and that is kind of where I mean you will definitely see references to video games. You will definitely see references to songs. And I mean, the title of the book is based off a Bob Dylan song. That is the song is a rainy day woman, and the song is about like addiction. So and this came about because there's a Nick Cave and Kylie Minogue song called "The Garden Where Something Lies." I can't remember now, but it's a song. It's a song about murder, where the guy murders the lady at the very end of the song. And my thought was, I would like to tell a story of a vampire that is connected to that song. And eventually I got to where I'm at, and that idea still exists. It definitely, as I tell stories of as RDW continues, I will eventually get to the Nick Cave and Kylie Minogue song. So combining, yes, it's different elements, and as I said, the way I'm explaining it, there's one too many tangents, so it feels a little scattershot. But it's not that. There's a focus of a story, and there are elements that I want to bring just to enrich the story as it's being told.
Great. I want to get back to the feeling of being expendable. It seems like 2020 kind of is the year for expendability because, we've been separated from friends, from family. Does society go on to save, the few or the many that can get sick from COVID-19? And also, too, depending on what industry you're in, you're being told that you're not needed or that you're being totally pressed into service if you're like a frontline worker, like if you're working in a hospital, for example. You can't back out of whatever your responsibility is to the society. And I'm assuming that Astrid and her battalion mates are feeling the same kind of pressure.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, this is that part of the story. We will explore like some of it we see it on book 2, where again I'm not spoiling a bit, mostly because I can give just hints at what it is because I already wrote book 2. I closed my browser, therefore the light of my face is gone now. So I'm gonna open it again. All right, cool. So I have light in my face. This second book actually goes a little further deep into that because we're still dealing with that theme of expendability, but whereas the characters that I introduced in book 1 are still there and Acid's story is still relevant, and I would not say that it's the focus of book 2. And this is something that Andrzej Sapkowski does on his books, where chapter by chapter, in fact, even in book by book, you will see the focus will shift to a different character, to a different perspective. And this is something that I'm trying to do as I tell, to inform the world around the main story that exists. But in this second book, again, I'm exploring that in the form of another soldier that quit the army over atrocities that they have committed. And one of the options that they have is to erase their mind. And so they get criticized. They're a specific type of unit in this universe. I'm not going to say what it is because that will be then a spoiler. and and they get criticized over that. They get chastised over that. But at the same time, by people that did not, by people that did not shun away their responsibility or their guilt and whatnot. And this is only from the perspective of the affected. There's just a little bit of hint of to the people that actually are behind the scenes. So again, the war machine, or in our specific case, currently in society, just the way society is, capitalism, the way it is built to just grind us and chew us out. So one thing that I'm trying to do in the way that I'm telling these stories is that the books are slow paced. And I will actually I wanted to put this up front and center on the first book, just on a forward, is just to say, one thing that I require of the reader is, and I'm guessing we're going to get to the artwork, is to pay attention to visual cues in the artwork, and to get a sense that this is not a fast-paced story at all. There are fast-paced moments, but I want there are several sequences where I am either showing something or I'm just showing the character doing regular things. Nothing else is happening, but the person is breathing, is existing, or the world is existing, just so you get to the world. So as we get further down the stories, more of these elements that you ask and that I have mentioned before, more of them are come to the fore. Still build up slowly, and until eventually we get to a conclusion, which still, I mean, you mentioned the privileging the ones for the detriment of the greater good, and being faced with that question, which is a lot of, I would say, a lot of the stories that feature a good and a bad eventually put you on a situation of what decision will you make between the greater good and whatnot. And since I'm trying to devil a lot on the shades of gray, should we arrive at that point, what would then be the decisions of the characters? Because most, if not all, of the characters that I'm presenting, I am trying to keep them true to life, as in they're all flawed. So we'll see what happens.
And the one thing with 2020, it's kind of forced us to kind of take our foot off the gas pedal.
Yeah.
So, you know, the kind of rat race that most of us were engaged in could lead to burnout. So the pacing that you're talking about when we get into the art, it's kind of perfect for not only the story you want to tell, but also the kind of pace of life that we're going through right now.
Hopefully, because I have joked around. My background, I'm a Canadian citizen, but I was not born here. I was born in Mozambique, and I started reading books through bande dessinée, through the European albums, and the speed, the pacing compared to American comics is completely different. So I have joked around, mostly here in Quebec, that American comics is they're hamburgers, they're fast food, whereas the bande dessinée, the graphic or just graphic novels in general are a good steak dinner. So which you can't just gobble it up. So I mentioned this because my fear was that the audience is so much ready, because of the way the industry is. It's so ready for that fast food. Give me the immediate satisfaction, that when you give to them something that is slow, is boring. So I was like, yeah, that's why I'm going to put it forward in a book. Yeah, this thing is going to be boring for you. I'm sorry. But yes, much as you referenced, I mean, when we slowed the pace, we saw we saw waters getting clean, and fishes appear where they apparently they shouldn't have appeared. We took in air that was more breathable than before. So the invitation to slowing down and paying attention to the surroundings. If I can do, I mean, if I can do it right, and if the what I'm trying to do is compelling enough to have the audience pay attention. I mean, another of the references that I'm drinking in is Miyazaki. Most, if not all, of the Miyazaki movies have lots and lots of moments of just being. And you're so enthralled in the story that you're just there. You're just part of it. So if I can make this compelling enough that not only you want to see what's in next page, but that still the page that is in front of you where nobody else is talking and there's nobody killing anybody, but you're engaged into seeing what's going on. If you're stopping for that page, great, achievement unlocked.
And I must say, as an artist, fellow artist, and as well as a reader and a fan, your layouts have always been spectacular for me. And
Thank you.
When you're doing Spider-Man and especially your Winter Soldier run,
Yeah,
it's not something that you can just glance at, right? There's a distinctive flow. It's constructed and deconstructed at the same time. It's
yeah,
almost like a stream of consciousness, visual, in a
yeah,
visual manner. And I've looked at some of the art that you have up on the Kickstarter,
yeah.
and you're knocking it out of the park with that same sort of visual storytelling. Can you give us an example of what your thought process is in terms of
Yeah.
how you lay out a page?
Yeah. Going back, I mean, I got to this when I was at DC Comics. I think it was my first, because I started with Final Crisis, in which I had to do the widescreen panel stuff because I was coming in to fill in for what was it J.J. Jones, which he was doing the widescreen stuff, and so that's how I got into the big two. And my first gig out of that was a book called Escape, uh, and Final Crisis Escape. Or yeah, it was that. It was a 3-issue miniseries, and in that there is a scene where Count Vertigo is going crazy, and I had a lot of fun with the layouts with that specific sequence, and I thought this is more to the type of comics that I enjoy. Specifically, at the time, I was reading a lot of David Mack. Um, and I had started reading Promethea, which is I got late to Promethea, and immediately became one of my all-time favorite books. It's incredible. It's absolutely amazing. So as I move forward at DC, I got a bunch of gigs that were, I would say, hands off with the editorial. I got a book called The Shield. I did a run of 10 issues on The Shield, and on that one, it was essentially the editorial was like, no joke, nobody's buying this book, so you guys can do whatever you want. So, which gave me leeway to try to make the layouts just a little more fun. My initial idea was I'd like just to make this a little more fun and a little more integrated with the story. The guy had a like kind of an Iron Man suit, but it's not an Iron Man, symbiote, whatever. But it was kind of a technological suit. So I would bring a lot of electronics and whatnot to the storytelling. And as I progressed in that, I became more and more aware of the fact that I really enjoy adding a little bit extra to the panel sequencing. When I got to Marvel, this is when things, I would say, like shifted pretty much completely. When I started doing the Spider-Man book, which my idea was then to do what I thought J.H. Williams was doing at Promethea, and what David Mack, Bill Sienkiewicz, they would do in their respective books, which is, for as much as they're doing bringing a lot of personality to the books, they are enhancing the way the story is told, the way the characters are feeling with visual cues. So being that I was already involved in trying to invite the writer, that's right, not the writer, the reader into participating in the story in a way like, oh, I'm gonna do layout as a spiral because Count Vertigo is a spiral, so everybody goes in a spiral, something like that. So with Spider-Man, it was essentially uh, how can I bring Peter Parker into the story and what he's going through, have the audience participate, and it became that. So fast forward to RDW, whereas with Spider-Man, I mean, the excuse was he was drugged. With the Winter Soldier, the excuse was I want to do it. I just want to do it. So yeah, whatever. And yeah, there are sequences that are actually drug induced, but most of it is just, yeah, it's just the flow. Whereas with this, with RDW, I found my voice with the Winter Soldier, which was I want the reader to participate in the story in the way, like to try to make the book a little interactive. I mean, if as I said, if you look at the page and the layout, and you'll find something there that you feel, oh, this is actually adding to what I'm seeing inside the action, inside each panel. That's my objective. You have interacted with the page, the book is talking to you. It's not just here is book, read story. You're participating in that journey. So I am using a color palette that I'm using the fact that I'm painting with acrylics that has visual texture to it. I mean, I could have done that with digital, but I actually like the texture on the paper. And trying to bring the to bring the reader into the experience in a way that they might also be kind of sensing what's going on. I have described this in the past as if I'm using if I'm a filmmaker, I'm using good sound design and good soundtrack to enhance a scene. I mean, while I'm not super crazy about The Dark Knight, I think it's the best of the three movies that Nolan did, with the Joker and whatnot. But one of the reasons that it is that the soundtrack it's claustrophobic. It's great. That it's almost as if you hear the drums consistently, and that's a beep. Like it's
yeah, for sure.
It's unnerving. So if I can make that kind of situation work in a scene visually, again, I am, if I'm successful at that achievement, like I got to where I was to where I was going with. So specifically to I went on a big storage just to go to answer your question. To your question, normally what I do is assess a scene, and like I will go specifically with the scene that we have in the Kickstarter where I'm gonna spoil it, whatever. It's in it's in the preview, so you can just look at it. But if you pay attention, the stream of what makes panel borders comes from a closed eye.
Yeah, that's a great page. That's a great page.
Yeah, when as the sequence goes, the colors in the borders, they go from light gold to a little darkish, to a little reddish, to a little darkish red until the eye opens and the person wakes up. So that is just, I'm just like quickly explaining that this situation, somebody's having a fever dream. Mm-hmm. Essentially is that, and they wake up in huge distress, and immediately after waking up, when we go to the next page, you will see that the character has a breakdown, and the page is all the panel borders are made by a tree, which is the last panel of the page, signifying that now this is the real world. This is where the roots are.
Right.
So if I am taking you from the fever dream to ground reality, and reality is not as colorful. The reality is not as pretty, is not as happy. In fact, reality sucks. So this is what I'm trying to do visually. throughout the story, you will see lots and lots of that. I bring the color palette a little bit as well because, as I mentioned some time ago, I'm also dealing with, the story is also dealing with potential 5 stages of grief. And I'm taking inspiration from a game called Gris, where they use color and visual storytelling for these 5 stages. And I'm kind of following that treatment for the book as well.
And so you said that you're doing it using acrylics as opposed to digitally.
Yes, yes.
Is there a reason for that?
I have been going more and more experimental with acrylics. And as I said, you can see, whereas you can emulate texture digitally, and you have to make a concerted effort to emulate texture digitally, you can see the texture on a printed page, of course. But for me, it's much more satisfying as I'm doing it. I mean, one of the things that I did on Spider-Man was there's a sequence where Spidey's fighting Venom and Carnage, and I made the panel borders with acrylic ink, as if the symbiotes were invading the page. So all of the panels, I mean, if you touch it, there is something gooey around the page, which you can also see in the printed book. So I like that. So I'm kind of trying to reproduce that in this book to a larger scale. Like everything is all painted, so trees feel like trees, stuff like that.
I guess also too, from an artistic point of view, you're also a little bit more connected to the work. Like I know, I love using a Wacom,
Yeah,
but there's something about just regular pencil, graphite
texture.
on paper. There's
Yeah,
just
texture.
a feel. You're right. The texture of it brings it. It connects you more to what you're doing.
Yeah. I mean, I have tried digital, and to be honest, it's just not for me. I really like the analog side of it. I like texture, so I will be analog until I can, I guess.
Sounds great. I want to get back to something you mentioned earlier about being kind of like disconnected and not necessarily being engaged when you're trying to cope with something.
Yeah.
It's almost as though, like, if you're looking at how 2020 is playing out, people are choosing sides or preferring to accept certain realities
Yeah.
based on not necessarily truth, and that's
Wishful
debatable,
thinking.
but it's also what makes them feel better or
Yeah.
validates their worldview.
Yes.
Is Astrid and are the people that she's surrounded with dealing with those things as well too, as well as coming out of their addiction?
Yes. It's I mean, I get super excited about all of these things, but a little voice in my head like, dude, you gotta just spoil it. But yes, they are.
Don't spoil it if you don't have
Yes,
to.
they are. I have so far I have the story written upwards just like 60% of book 3, and on book 2 we see more of it. On book 3 we see more of it. Characters that are introduced on the first book. On book 3, some of their insecurities come to the fore. One thing that I'm also bringing to the story that I'm telling is the fact that I'm mixed race. And when I was growing up in Mozambique, the fact that I was mixed race was less than ideal. So I heard I was discriminated in a way that I wasn't black enough, nor was I white enough. And the thing that I would hear quite a bit in school was like a mulatto is the word, but like mixed color has no flag. You have no flag. So I am bringing those elements and the indecision that goes into the growing up with that, as in, but where do I belong then? What am I? So I am bringing those questions to the fore as the story comes about, because Astrid is mixed race. Of course, the way I'm painting, or the way I'm painting her, she's mixed race, as if she was just a random human in nowadays, but she has elven history, and that comes into the story when she meets another character that is also like that, but has a problem with that reality, such as that she has had that very same problem in the past. So we will be dealing with that as the story goes. So the realities that we paint for ourselves to make the world better, that comes into the conversation. It's just that as it is, it does not pertain to book one. So people that would start getting super excited, you would have to wait like a couple of years more.
That's all right. As long as we know what's
Yeah,
coming. That's great.
yeah.
And how has the transition been going from artist to writer?
Oh man, I had no idea. I am so much respect for writers. So much respect. Like, first, I am so visual that I write on the paper, like on the paper that I'm drawing. In fact, so I have like a 22 by 17 watercolor, like a thick watercolor paper that I cut in 11 by 17, and I prepare the borders to start drawing. I then plot, like I have the book plot. I have the book plot upwards of almost a book four. Yeah, no, sorry, almost a book at book five. So I plot everything out. What is it that I'm trying to say? What are the scenes that I'm going to address to say what I want to say? And as I write, of course, all these things may or may not change. So I go and all right, I cut 5 pages. This is a scene, or 6 pages, whatever. This is a scene, and I write headers on each page. All right, she wakes up. This is happening. Commentary on that. And then I start scribbling the layout and trying to construct the scene as I'm scribbling the layout. I'm like, oh, this is about that. So when I finally get to the layout stage, I start composing. Okay, so this is the scene, and this scene is about this. Da 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 da. And then I pencil it. As I'm penciling it, oh yeah, so these people are talking about this. This is the dialogue. And after I have a fully drawn sequence, I scan the sequence and I finally type it on the Word doc. So like
this is the Marco Rudy way. You know how there's like the Marvel method? This is the Marco Rudy method.
And the thing is, because most of the time when I am typing for myself, when I finally showed my script to my editor, she was like, I don't understand anything. Anything. And I'm like, oh, you have to look at the artwork, because the way that I compose the script is in tandem with the artwork. And she's like, yeah, Marco, but I'm not you. So when I finally went about and started editing my script, I'm like, yeah, this script is not for anybody, because I would have in fact, I did this on my Patreon, which is I had the unedited script on Patreon, and I would do behind the scenes commentary. So this is about this. This is how I built the scene. The purpose of the scene is this. The color is that. My influences are that. I'm looking at artists like this, and I put it all there. But the script itself is, and then she wakes up, and then there's for minor reaction. She looks to the side. She talks to character. She does that, and speech bubble. And I'm like, where is she? What is she? How is she? None of that is there. So I'm like, yeah, I guess my editor was right. So I have newfound respect for writers in a way that I cannot visualize without drawing, and I have no idea. I remember one of my co-workers, a writer, telling me, "Hey, Marco, we should work together and whatnot. What do you wanna draw?" I'm like, "Yeah, I like it. We can draw. We can work with something about dreams." He's like, "All right, give me 4 hours." That was it. I was like, "Ow, ow." I took days to go on a sequence of 6 pages, days. And he's like, yeah, give me 4 hours. I'll come up with something for you. So yeah. Um, uh, and it's my biggest test right now. After I penciled the book completely, I sent the script. This was the unedited script. I sent to a bunch of writers, and interestingly enough, with the exception of a couple that gave me actual pointers in a way of maybe you want to do this, maybe you want to do this other. I got like very positive response because my question was always this: irrespective of the artwork, would you be interested in continuing to read the story? Are you engaged in the story to find out more? Are you curious to find out more? That's always my question, because before, when I only had the concept and I had like a short story, actually I even put some of the short story on Kickstarter just as a gift. I'm sorry, as a reward. When I just had that short story, at the time I had a co-writer. He kept telling me, because he was the one that had the connection to the companies and whatnot, he kept telling me, dude, we're gonna sell it on the artwork. I'm like, yeah, but what about the story? Is the story working? Because this is the stuff that I have. No, I mean, as an artist, you're mostly doubting yourself with every brushstroke.
Right.
But
That is true.
yeah, dabbling into something that you are not confident, you're like, what am I doing here? This sucks. Everything sucks. So at the end of the day, um, I mean, after I sent the edited, like after I received the edited script and I edited again and edited again, I am confident enough to say that it's a story. That's about it. If it's a good one, we will just have to find out. It exists. It's in the ether.
Well, it comes down to whether it has heart and the audience connects to it, right?
Yeah,
And you know, as an artist and even just someone who reads comics, is in the industry, you take in video games and movies, it doesn't
yeah,
matter how sparklingly dazzling the special effects are or even
yeah,
how good the performances are. If
yeah,
you can't connect to the actual script and the story, if there's no story there,
yeah,
then you've just got an hour and a half of great effects, or it's a pinup
yeah,
book.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like you
I
need
mean,
you need all of it. You need everything working in tandem for it to really, really gel.
I mean, I'll give an example, and I'll get flack over this, but the Death of Wolverine storyline,
Right.
it has beautiful storyline. Sorry, it has beautiful artwork. Beautiful. The story, no,
Mm. Yeah. Agreed. Agreed.
no. So yeah, I mean, the artwork is amazing. McNiven does a great Barry Windsor Smith. Great.
Hmm.
And, but
And
yeah,
yeah, and
that's that's down to personal opinion.
yeah, I guess all of this is essentially,
Yeah,
but you are
yeah,
right. And I think the most disappointing thing as a fan is when you've
yeah.
got you have something that could be so great
Yes,
and one element totally lets it down.
yes, yes, yes. I mean, on the complete opposite end, I bought ages ago. I bought the Cable Soldier X two trades that is written by David Tishman and with art by Igor Kordey. And at the
Mhm.
time, Igor Kordey had gotten so much flack over X-Men,
Right.
which I eventually found out that he had to work on 2 issues in 3 weeks.
Ugh,
So like it's one of those
that's
things.
crazy.
And like Igor Kordey's artwork is an acquired taste. So I can gladly I can see people saying I don't like it. It's ugly, whatever. It's not. And the story is also so good. I can even give another example: the Lucifer series, the Mike
Right.
Carey's Lucifer. There is artwork in that you would say, it's just not very good, but the story is so compelling that you're like, no, this is great. The artwork is amazing. Everything is fine
Hmm.
because it gels so well.
Yeah.
So
It's funny how like you said, art's subjective. You can have
Yeah,
artists that you like, you can have tones that you like. Sometimes the pencils are great, but the
yeah.
inker changes everything
There's
sometimes,
also
right?
that. Yeah,
There's
yeah,
also
yeah,
that. And that comes down to scheduling, what the deadlines are, who can they
yeah,
get for whatever rate, a whole bunch of things that go on behind the scenes that we don't know. But there's a saying
yes,
in film that when you get a movie, it's kind of like a minor miracle anyway. I find it's the same way
yeah,
with comics. When you get a comic book that just hits for whatever reason, it's the timing,
yeah,
it's the talent that's on it, and when it's come out. And if it speaks to people, it speaks to
yeah,
people. And if it doesn't, say la vie.
yeah, yeah. No, no. Like I mean, Saga is one of those.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, most definitely. And
yeah.
so moving from writing, because like you basically took on a whole bunch of new hats. Like you're wearing a whole bunch of
Yeah.
different new hats. What was putting the Kickstarter together like?
It was a nightmare. Um, I mean, there. I would say that normally artists are renowned for their disconnection to legalese,
Mm,
and I very much fit that category. I don't like to dabble into legalese at all. So it's one of those. If I have a person to do that for me, I'm like, you just do it. But on this particular case, I was being egged on by a friend that has been doing Kickstarters for years now, and she's like, "You can do this, you can do this, you can do this other. It's very simple. You just have to do it." So I eventually got to doing pretty much everything that I needed to do to set the Kickstarter, to get it approved, to prepare it. So the initial part, it was more resistance on the fact that as an artist, I wanted to be doing everything else but the legalese part, which is necessary. And it's also necessary to have it all someplace that you don't just forget it. Like
hmm
you have it all protected, prepared, uh, reachable if you need to. And then when the campaign starts and you see the first boost, you're like, because the campaign was with due to the fact that this campaign was essentially paying me the time for to paint the pages, paying shipping and printing, which are the which is the bulk of the campaign. I was like, this is too much money to ask for, and I need to reach a specific threshold on the first day. That if I don't reach it, then I'm in trouble, and I didn't. So day two, it's when the anxiety kicks in, and I am already somebody that suffers with anxiety. So yeah, the throughout the experience throughout Kickstarter of every day going and checking, and then I had to, like, I was moving in that period, and I had a personal problem that happened as well. So all of that combined, my brain was completely frazzled, so much so that when I finally got the funds at the campaign, my reaction was, "Oh, that was that. That
Just
was that."
relief
Yeah,
almost, right?
not
Yeah,
even that. I think I got relief. Like the relief was like a week after or something, and
right.
I'm still kind of reeling from
Still
it.
almost like in shock then?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
My reaction was, "Oh." And my girlfriend's like, "Oh yeah, man, congratulations!" And her folks like, "Yeah, we should celebrate." And I'm like, "Oh, the campaign is not over. People can remove their pledges." Only until the fat lady sings. So the campaign ends, and it's like you're allowed to breathe, but you're so buzzed with the anxiety and whatnot that you're still like, yeah, man. I think it only dawned on me when, because the campaign ended on a Friday, and I took the weekend just to rest. So on Monday I started painting again. It was then that I was like, okay, yeah, the campaign is funded. I now have scheduled all my time until this book comes, or at least until I have all the pages done and I have everything prepared. to send to editorial, to send to the guy that's going to be doing the book treatment, so we can then send it to the printer. So this is planned out. I get to do this, so let's do it. But the period of waiting and doubting yourself and everything that goes in between during the Kickstarter, especially for the first time. And for me, a lot of things came into play because I have I would like going on social media. I have noticed this from other creators, so I think that it's fairly common in with artists. I'd say with writers as well, which is imposter syndrome, and the feeling that like you're just pulling shit out of your ass. You don't belong, you know.
Right.
So I've always had that, and in that period, I'm throwing this thing that it's the first time that I did it, or the first time that I'm doing. So just the doubt that creeps in, it's crippling. So after the campaign is done and you finally sigh, like, oh, and the good thing, at least for me, was that rather than going on euphoria or at the same time going on the panic, oh my god, now I have to do it, it was more like, all right, let's do the thing. So it's been kind of like back to business, doing what I have to do. I have a schedule of 1 page a week, and I am following that schedule. Just that.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
Yeah.
It's amazing how many different parts there are to making a comic book, and then also the business side of it.
Yeah, like somebody ages ago had mentioned that if you put out an idea, like you put it on an email, send it to somebody, or if you put it like online, an idea, that idea is copyrighted to yours. I'm like, to you. I'm like, yeah, cool. Yeah, no, you have to go to register copyright. I'm like, I didn't know that. So, and initially, the title for this was Of Lost Fantasy, and I found I think it was like a Korean game that is called
Right.
so sorry, it was just Lost Fantasy. Yeah, it was just Lost Fantasy, and I found like a Korean game that is Lost Fantasy. I'm like, okay, I can call it Off Lost Fantasy. But once I found like the song behind it, I'm like, you know what? It is because I would then tell other stories in that a tale of lost fantasy subtitle. I'm like, all right, I can have title, and the subtitle is the continuing series. Should I then migrate from, okay, Asterid story is done, I can tell some other character story or something else under the same A Tale of Lost Fantasy. So that is not copyrighted to me. So I'm like, all right, cool. So I just these are just minor little things that it's from the business side that as I'm saying this, the people listening are like, yeah, of course. To which I say, yeah, of course, after I heard it.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
Because before I was like, yeah.
The nightmare of a title search sometimes can totally derail a project because the title may be completely germane to whatever the MacGuffin is or whatever is central to your story.
Yeah.
And then you realize, oh, I can't use that.
Yeah.
And so how do you change the entire concept? Because you need a new title. It's maddening sometimes.
Yeah. You want to tell a story that revolves around the matrix of a DNA, and you decide to call your book The Matrix.
Nope, can't do it. Somebody beat us to it. How'd that happen?
Yeah.
And speaking of the Kickstarter, I also noticed you have some cool incentives that were part of the that's what I'm looking for. Part of the
reward tiers.
The reward tiers, exactly.
Yeah.
Can you give us an example of what people can expect based on what tiers were achieved?
Yeah, I put myself into serious trouble with the tiers there, because I was serious trouble in a way that there's a chance of overworking myself when the book is printed before shipping it out. Because I had an early bird catch, which was initially for just 20 books, which was you get like $30, 30 Canadian dollars, and you get the hardcover edition of the book with the sketch in. And I'm like, yeah, fine. And then afterwards, a lot of people asked for more, like lots. So I'm like, I put it to 40 people, and I'm like, yeah, okay. And then I had another tier that was these are just the ones that involve artwork. There was another one that I had a $150. It was $150 tier where I had a 9x12 sketch, painted sketch, which same deal. I think it was initially just 10, and people asked for more, so I think I opted to 20. And for the people that asked more, I actually opened the tier and made a point of saying this will take longer because I need to prioritize the things that I need to ship immediately, that need to be done immediately. If people can be patient to wait just a few months longer so I can actually commit to these things and finally send them, yeah, sure, you get your book with your sketch. The good thing is everybody that gets the after the $20 pledge, everybody that gets whatever they pledged for will get the digital edition first immediately.
Great.
Immediately as it's made available. I also had original artwork for the short story that I had there, but essentially is some version of the hardcover edition of the book, sometimes with some behind the scenes commentary on the script, on scene construction, layout disposition, color choice, references, with a bunch of artists that generously decided to help out with the campaign. So we would have at least no, we will have 10 different pinups there from
that's great.
Top tier people from the industry. I mean, if I say top tier people, it just remains that. So artists like Marguerite Sauvage, Bengal, Nick Bracho, so and more.
Yeah, a great lineup, and they're going to be doing renditions of the characters from
the
series.
Yeah, or just whatever it is that they like about the setting.
Right.
So that's basically one of the things that people should look for, I guess. Don't look for the book. There's a bunch of artists there that will be doing pinups. So that's a good highlight.
Great. Well, Marco, I have to say this was a pleasure talking to today and catching up on your Kickstarter and RDW. I'm totally looking forward to it. Where can fans get more information and search and find and things about you on social media and stuff?
I'm pretty easy to find. Marco Rudy, R-U-D-Y, on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. I have the usual ArtStation, DeviantArt, but to be honest, the last time I updated the DeviantArt was because of Kickstarter, so it's fairly recent. But before that, it had been some good 8 months, so I haven't been posting a lot. But you can find the trajectory of my artwork specifically on DeviantArt, because you can pretty much see how I started and how it starts to change. And if you Google me, Marco Rudy, you will find the DeviantArt, because it's not under my name. It's a name that I got from Mozambican folklore. But yeah, you can find me, Marco Rudy, anywhere, everywhere. And I have been doing snippets of the pages that I'm showing the process and whatnot on social media. So anybody that is curious as to how that is coming about, just follow me on social media. You'll find it there.
All right, great. Well, that's awesome. And thanks again for joining us in the asylum.
Thanks for having me.
Best of luck moving forward. And we're going to be keeping track of the progress for RDW.
Thank you so very much.
All right, you take care.
All right, take care.
All right, bye-bye. Thanks for listening, everyone. And once again, a special thank you to Marco Rudy. We look forward to your comments, so reach out to us on Facebook and at Comix Asylum on Instagram and Twitter.